All right, everyone, this is lesson 7.4 for 5th grade. I'm on page 243. We are using common denominators to divide today. Right from the jump, most of you do not have your fraction circle pieces at home, so we're not going to use them to solve the math message. However, this does kind of give us a preview of what we'll be working on today. We'll be starting with a number of something, and we'll be splitting it a certain number of ways. So right away, they want us to take these 4 wholes, 4 entire circles, and divide them by 1/3. So what you're going to do here is split every single whole into thirds. So we're literally going to split these 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, split, split, and all you're left to do for this math message is to count how many thirds we just split 4 wholes into. And you can count, and we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We just found 12 pieces. So if you take 4 wholes and split them into thirds, just like we did, you're going to end up with 12. And we're actually going to use a quicker route. Well, I think it could be quicker. I can't really guarantee that just yet, but a different route that's not going to use drawings, I can tell you that. So let's jump down and read the instructions for how to use common denominators to divide. It says one way to divide fractions is to use common denominators. This method can be used to divide whole numbers by fractions and fractions by whole numbers. We'll be doing a little bit of both, a whole number by a fraction and a fraction by a whole number. So there's 2 steps. The first is to rename the dividend and divisor as fractions with a common denominator. And then the second step is literally just divide your numerators. And that's it. You're done. So the trick here is going to be taking your whole number. If we jump down, they have an example here, but I think it might be easier for me just to show you with an actual problem. So the trickiest part is going to be taking your whole number and turning him into a fraction. And I have a pretty surefire way to do that. So I'm going to try to slow it down so you can follow me step by step. This number 2 means there's 2 wholes of whatever we're dealing with. And usually when we're finding a common denominator, we're going to use whatever this denominator already is. So this problem is about fifths. Just like number 2 is going to be about fourths, number 3 will be about halves, and number 4 will be about fourths. So we want to find a way to take this 2 and turn them into a fraction that has a numerator of 5. And the way you do that, take this 2, multiply him by 5. Do that right now. What's 2 times 5? That's 10. So we're going to start with 10 as our new numerator, and we're going to keep the same denominator for both sides now. So this 2 we're going to turn into 10, which we got from 2 times 5, 10 over 5. So now our problem, instead of being 2 divided by 1/5, now it's going to be 10 fifths divided by 1/5. So I'm going to review that for you one more time. If we want to turn the 2 into a fraction that has the same denominator, all we did is we took this whole number, multiplied them by that denominator. We did 2 times 5, and that gave us the new numerator. So 2 became 10 over 5, because 10 fifths is literally the same as 2 wholes. So now we did step 1, which is to rename the dividend. And so now we'll do step 2, which is to divide the numerator. And what is the numerators, of course, hopefully we know this by now. Numerators, I'm going to abbreviate with an N. Those are the numbers on top. So what is 10 divided by 1? Another way to ask, how many times can 1 go into 10? And we know 10 divided by 1 is literally 10. So our answer in this case is 10. And we can check our work and this is true for any division problem. You can take your quotient and multiply him by one of the fractions. And if it equals the other fraction, that means you nailed it. So let's go ahead and test it out. And we'll take this 10, let's turn him into a fraction, 10 over 1. Multiply him by, we'll use the 1/5. And if we did this correctly, then 10 over 1 times 1/5 should equal 10/5. And we know to multiply fractions, we just go straight across. 10 times 1 is 10. 1 times 5 is 5. Perfect. Okay, so we checked our work and we nailed it. Do you want to do one more? That's a rhetorical question because I'm going to do one more. If you feel like you've got it, stop this video, move on, do your thing. Otherwise, let's move on to number 2, and let's go and use the same process we used before. You'll notice the only difference is we're starting with a fraction and dividing by a whole number, whereas here we're doing a whole number divided by a fraction. But that does not change our rule. So we want to turn this 4 into a fraction with a denominator of 4. And remember, to do that, we're going to take our whole number, multiply him by the denominator. And so you're asking what's 4 times 4, and 4 times 4 is 16. And then you're just going to put them over the same denominator that we've been using there. So our new problem, I might actually have to shift him over a little bit. Our new problem, instead of 1/4 divided by 4, is now going to be 1/4 divided by 16/4. And the reason I wanted to go over this problem as well, a lot of times I just show you one problem and then move on, is because I wanted to remind you how we do this type of division problem. I know you can do 10 divided by 1 or 16 divided by 1, that would be 16, but I wanted to refresh your memory of how we do 1 divided by 16. And normally that wouldn't really make sense. You know, if you have one, let's say 1 apple, and you want to split it among 16 people, you're not going to get a whole number as an answer because you're taking that one whole number and splitting them. So the cool thing about this is when you're doing 1 divided by 16, the answer literally is going to be 1 divided by 16, aka 1/16. Okay, so if you divide 1 divided by 16 here, you're going to end up with a fraction as an answer as well. It's literally just 1/16. Okay, and we're going to use the same strategy to check our work. Take your answer, multiply by either the divisor or the dividend, and why don't we go ahead and pick 1/4 this time. It doesn't really matter which one you choose, as long as it equals whatever one you didn't choose. So 1 times 1 in this case would be 1. And, oh, I'm sorry, you may have noticed I was pausing, and this would have been the point where, like, one of you guys, I don't want to name names on camera, but someone would have pointed this out. I was checking, I was like, wait a second, this is not going to work. Do you guys notice what I did incorrectly? It looks like this should have been 16 over 4. Now I'm wondering, maybe it has to be the 1/16 times this guy. Would that work? I don't know. I guess we'll try a little bit. You guys will check with me, and maybe I made a mistake here. Let's test this and see what happens. 1/16 times 1/4 would equal 1/64, and I don't think that makes sense. I don't think that works. So we might have to scratch that. Why don't we try something else? You guys might be learning right here with me. What if we did 1/16 times 16/4? Would that work better? So that's going to be like 16/4. It's going to be like the whole number 4. And I get 16, and this will be 64ths. And that would be the equivalent to 1/4. Okay, so I'm going to walk you through my mistake I made here, and hopefully I didn't confuse you guys too much. I think what we need to do is we need to double check by using our answer times this guy. My mistake was trying to multiply this one by here, and I don't know if that works out for checking our answer. I could be entirely wrong, and I'm sorry if I am wrong. I have to admit this must be a moment of weakness here in terms of checking division answers. But it looks like if you multiply your answer by this guy right here, we should end up in good shape. Okay, I'm going to end there. If you're interested in taking a look at story problems on page 244, I'll throw out another video for you. Elsewise, the story problems really are just going to use the strategies that we worked on here, and the key will be just finding what are you starting with and how many times are you splitting or dividing it. Okay, I will see you in either 7.5 or for part 2 of 7.4.